The morning light gently filtered through the curtains as you lay curled up on the bed, clutching your abdomen. The sharp cramps had kept you awake most of the night, the discomfort of your periods. You slowly rolled over as the sound of your alarm buzzed, cutting through the silence of the room. With a sigh, you sat up, resting your back against the headboard, your body still aching. Your eyes drifted up to the ceiling, trying to shake off the heaviness in your heart. After a few moments, you reached over to the nightstand and opened the small drawer. Inside was something you hadn't touched in a while, a photo frame. You pulled it out gently, a soft, sad smile forming on your lips as your eyes settled on the picture inside. It was a photo of Jungkook, his charming smile bright and full of warmth. The sight of it made your heart ache. "I love you, Cookie," you whispered softly, holding the frame close to your chest. Tears welled up in your eyes, a few slipping down your cheeks as you hugged the photo tighter. Even though Jungkook wasn't with you anymore, you still felt his presence as part of him, lingered in every corner of your life. "Even if you are not with me anymore, I still feel you. You're always with me, without yourself," the words echoing in your mind. After a long deep breath, you carefully placed the frame back into the drawer, giving it one last glance before closing it, pushing your emotions aside. You got off the bed, wincing slightly from the cramps, and made your way to the wardrobe. Pulling out your outfit for the day, something simple and professional for the office, you headed to the bathroom to freshen up. The cold water from the shower helped wake you up a little, though your body still felt sluggish from the pain. You tried not to let it affect you. After a quick routine, you stepped out of the bathroom and stood in front of the mirror, getting dressed. You fixed your hair, then applied light makeup, trying to hide the tiredness on your face. Just as you were finishing up, your phone buzzed. It was the cab driver from your office. "Miss, I'm waiting outside your building." You glanced at the time, realizing you needed to hurry. "I'll be down in a minute," you responded quickly, grabbing your bag from the bed. Rushing to the kitchen, you snatched an apple from the fruit bowl on the dining table. With a quick look around the apartment, you slipped on your shoes and headed out the door, the apple in hand as your only breakfast. As you made your way down the stairs, a wave of unease settled in your stomach. You were feeling something is going to happen in your life today. Bracing yourself, you stepped outside into the chilly morning air. The cab is waiting just ahead. You stepped out of the cab and walked into the tall glass building where you worked. Taking a deep breath to steady yourself, the familiar hustle of the office welcomed you, but there was a different energy today. As you entered, you noticed small groups of colleagues huddled together, whispering and gossiping near the entrance and hallways. Their excited murmurs filled the air, and you couldn't help but wonder what was going on. Just as you were about to walk past, you felt a light tap on your shoulder. Turning around, you saw Sophie, your friend and colleague, standing there with a curious expression. "Sophie," you said, surprised to see her. Sophie raised her eyebrow in concern. "What happened? You look so dull today," she asked, scanning your face for any signs of trouble. You sighed, feeling exhausted from both the cramps and the emotional weight of the morning. "I'm on days," you said dully. "I got my period last night and it's worse this time." Sophie's face softened with understanding. She gently reached into her pocket and pulled out a small bar of chocolate. "Oh no, that sucks. But here, take this. Chocolate always helps. It will make you feel a bit better." You smiled weakly, grateful for her kindness. "Thanks, Sophie," you said, taking the chocolate from her hand. The sweet gesture lifted your mood just a little, and you felt lucky to have a friend like her. As you nibbled on the chocolate, you couldn't help but notice the continued gossiping around the office. Curiously, you turned to Sophie. "What's going on? Why is everyone whispering and acting so excited?" Sophie blinked at you in surprise. "Wait, don't you know our new CEO is arriving today?" You felt your stomach drop at her words. "What? The new CEO?" You ask, confused, but I'm the CEO's secretary. How do I not know about this? Sophie gave you a teasing smile, shaking her head. Why, how are you so out of the loop? You should be the first to know. What is this negligence? She joked, nudging you lightly. You playfully narrowed your eyes at her, but she laughed at your reaction. You quickly pulled out your phone and opened your email to check for any updates. Sure enough, there it was, an official announcement about the new CEO's arrival. As you read through it, your eyes widened in shock when you saw the name. Jungkook, you whispered to yourself, feeling your heart sink. The name hit you like a brick, making your body tense up immediately. Jungkook, the same Jungkook who had once been so close to your heart, the same man who was now your ex. Just then, a strong, bold voice broke through your thoughts. Is this how you welcome your new CEO? Startled, you turned around to see him, the man you had once loved, standing right behind you, Jungkook, now your boss. He looked different, sharper, more commanding, yet just as handsome ever. Dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, his presence commanding attention in the entire office fell. Your breath caught in your throat and you could barely process the shock. Sophie turned to look at him as well and whispered, "Why, isn't he looking handsome? Who is this guy?" Swallowing hard, you barely managed to respond. "That's the new CEO," you said, your voice barely above a whisper. Sophie's eyes widened, her face lighting up with realization. "Wait, he's the new CEO? How did you not know?" She whispered back in disbelief, glancing between you and Jungkook. Jungkook with a serious expression standoffish. "I'm assuming you all have a habit of greeting your CEO, correct?" His deep voice sent a chill through the air. The office staff snapped out of their daze and quickly stood at attention. "Good morning, Mr. John," they greeted in unison, their voice sounding almost mechanical in the tense atmosphere. Jungkook's gaze lingered around the room, and for a moment his eyes met yours. There was no warmth, no recognition of the past, just a cold professional stare. Your heart pounded in your chest, but you kept your expression neutral, trying to make the flood of emotions rushing through you. Sophie, not missing a beat, pointed towards you. "She is your secretary, Mr. John. Ryan will assist you." Jungkook looked at you briefly, his face unreadable. "I see. I'll meet you in my cabin," he said simply, then turned away without another word, heading towards his new office. His manager followed him closely, offering details about the day's schedule. The moment he was out of sight, the air in the office seemed to return to normal, but you felt anything but normal. Sophie nudged you gently. "Why are you okay? You look like you have seen a ghost." You shook your head, still processing what had just happened. "I'll be fine," you whispered, though you weren't sure if you believed it yourself. How were you supposed to work so closely with Jungkook now, after everything that had happened between the two of you? Sophie frowned, but gave you a reassuring smile. "You're strong, Wine. You have got this. If you need to talk, I'm here. Don't worry about cramps anymore." You smiled back gratefully for her support, but inside you felt a storm brewing. The man you had once loved, the man who had been your world, was now your boss. How were you going to survive? Taking a deep breath, you squared your shoulders and straightened your posture. "You can do this," you told yourself. "It's just work. Keep it professional." With that, you gathered your things and made your way to Jungkook's cabin. Each step felt heavier than the last, and your heart raced as you approached the door. This was your reality now, and you had no choice but to face it head on. As you walked toward Jungkook's cabin, memories from your past flooded your mind like a film playing on repeat. You remembered the days when everything between you and Jungkook was full of warmth and love. Back then, you never thought things would turn out like this. Him being your cool CEO and you his secretary, standing on opposite sides of a wall you never imagined you could exist. The last time you saw him was 5 years ago in your final year of university. He had been everything to you back then, but life had other plans. Now here you were about to face him in a completely different reality. With trembling hands you finally reached his cabin and knocked on the door, your heartbeat echoing in your ears. You heard his voice, cold and authoritative, a stark contrast to the Jungkook you once knew. "Come in," he said in a bold, firm tone. Taking a deep breath, you slowly opened the door and stepped inside, standing across his desk. You could feel the weight of his gaze on you, but you stood there silently, unsure of what to say or how to act. It was as if the ground beneath you was no longer safe. Minutes passed before he finally spoke, his voice sharp and commanding. As far as I know, a secretary is supposed to explain the CEO schedule. He said, his tone laced with impatience, but here my secretary is standing silently. It's strange. His words stung more than you would like to admit, but you swallowed the lump in your throat and forced yourself to respond. I'm sorry, Mr. John. You said quietly, your voice betraying the sadness you were trying so hard to hide. I was lost somewhere. Jungkook's eyes narrowed slightly, but his expression remained indifferent. I can see that, he said coldly, but it would be better if you maintained professionalism at all times, Miss Ryan. You nodded quickly, trying to hold back your emotions. Yes, sir, you whispered, feeling the ache in your heart deepen. You opened your tablet and began explaining his schedule for the day, focusing on the details and trying not to let your mind drift back to the past. It was strange being this close to him again after everything that had happened, yet feeling so distant. You never imagined this kind of day would come after breaking up with him, but here you were. Once you finished explaining his schedule, he cleared your throat softly and said, That's all for today, sir. Jungkook noticed briefly before speaking again. Okay, he said, his voice even. I have a task for you. I need a presentation on the new project we are going to deal with. I want it completed in 1 hour. In the meantime, I'll be working on these documents. You nodded, ready to leave his cabin and escape the tension in the room, but just as you were about to turn and walk out, he spoke again, stopping you in your tracks. Wait, miss. He paused, his eyes looking at you expectantly. May I know your name? You didn't introduce yourself. His question hit you like a ton of bricks. Your heart sank and you felt a sharp pain in your chest. Did he forget my name? The name he once chanted so often, the name that had meant so much to him, and now he didn't even remember it. Tears welled up in your eyes, but you quickly blinked them away, refusing to let him see your vulnerability. You took a deep breath, forcing your voice to remain steady. It's Wine, you said softly, your voice barely above a whisper. My name is Wine. Jungkook showed no reaction, only nodding slightly before returning to his work. All right, I expect the presentation in 1 hour. You bit your lip, holding back the storm of emotions swirling inside you. Yes, sir, you replied, turning quickly and walking out of the cabin before he could see the tears threatening to spill from your eyes. As the door closed behind you, you leaned against the wall outside his office, letting out a shaky breath. You couldn't believe this was happening. The man who once knew you better than anyone now couldn't even remember your name. 5 years, you thought to yourself, 5 years, and it's like I never existed for him. But there was no time to dwell on the past. You had a job to do, and no matter how much it hurt, you had to be professional. Wiping the strained tear from your cheek, you straightened up and made your way back to your desk. You had 1 hour to complete the presentation and no time to fall apart. But deep down you knew this wasn't going to be easy. Working under Jungkook, pretending that you shared history didn't exist, it was going to be the toughest challenge of your life. You entered your cabin and sat at your desk, your mind spinning with thoughts of Jungkook. The memories of your past relationship with him flooded your mind, and you couldn't help but wonder how everything had gone from love to a painful. The man you once dreamed of spending your life with was now your co-CEO. The very thought of working under him day in and day out felt like an impossible challenge. Even though you had broken up with him, it was never easy for you to erase him from your heart. You never truly hated him. How could you? The breakup wasn't about losing love. It happened for reasons beyond your control. You stayed at your computer screen trying to focus on the task at hand, but the weight of your emotions was too heavy. 1 hour passed and you hadn't even started the presentation. You felt the pressure building inside you, but your thoughts kept drifting back to Chunka, to the life you once shared, and to the fact that despite everything, suddenly your phone rang, snapping out your thoughts. It was Jungkook. Meet me in my cabin, he said, his voice stern and commanding before the call ended abruptly. Your heart raced as you checked the time and realized how much you had wasted thinking about the past. You hadn't even started the presentation yet. With a deep breath, you hurried to his cabin. dreading what was about to come. When you reached his office, you knocked softly on the door. "Come in," he said, his voice cold and professional, so unlike the warm tone he once used with you. You stepped inside, feeling the tension in the room. Jungkook didn't even look up from the file in his hands as he spoke. "Are you done with the presentation?" he asked, his tone sharp. You stood there silently, not knowing what to say. You hadn't done anything, and the guilt weighed heavily on you. Seeing your silence, Jungkook looked up, his eyes narrowing slightly. "I'm asking you, Miss Vine, are you done with the presentation?" he repeated, his voice growing colder. You swallowed hard, feeling your heart sink. "I'm sorry," you said quietly. "I was busy with work." Jungkook's eyes met yours, and for a moment you saw a flicker of something, maybe frustration, maybe disappointment, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. He closed the file in his hands and leaned back in his chair, studying you with a look of disbelief. "I didn't know there were other important tasks besides the one I assigned to you," he said, his voice laced with sarcasm. "I'm really sorry," you repeated, your voice trembling slightly. "I don't want apologies. I want my employees to work properly and professionally. I heard you were a talented secretary, but after seeing your work today, I'm starting to doubt that." His words hit you like a punch to the gut. You had always taken pride in your work, but today you had let your emotions get the better of you. You stood there fighting back the tears that threatened to spill from your eyes. "It will never happen again, sir," you said, trying to sound as composed as possible. "Just give me 20 minutes and I will finish the presentation." Jungkook looked at you for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he sighed and turned back to his life. "This is your last chance," he said, his tone still cold. You nodded quickly, knowing that this was your only shot to prove yourself. Without another word, you left his cabin and hurried back to your desk. Sitting down, you took a deep breath and immediately started working on the presentation, your fingers moving quickly across the keyboard. Even though the cramps in your body were getting worse, you pushed through the pain and determined to finish the task. Every minute felt like an hour, but you knew you had no choice. Jungkook's harsh words echoed in your mind, and you couldn't afford to mess up again. You needed to prove to him and to yourself that you could handle this job no matter how difficult it was to work under him. As the clock ticked closer to the deadline, you focused all your energy on finishing the presentation, ignoring the pain in your abdomen and the heaviness in your heart. Finally, after what felt like eternity, the presentation was done. You saved the file, feeling a small sense of accomplishment despite the emotional roller coaster you had been all on morning. With a sigh of relief, you leaned back in your chair, but you knew this was only the beginning. Working with Jungkook wasn't going to be easy, but you had no choice. You had to find a way to survive this job and survive being so close to the man you once loved. The day finally came to an end, and you rushed out of the office, eager to avoid Jungkook's cold gaze. You didn't have the courage to face him after everything that had happened in the past. As soon as you got home, you quickly retrieved the photo frame you cherished from the drawer, sitting on your bed, tears streaming down your cheeks as you held it close. "Jungkook," you whispered, your voice breaking, "don't you remember me?" The pain in your chest felt unbearable. "I know it was my fault for breaking up with you, but I had no choice at that time. I had to choose someone over you." You paused, trying to steady your breath. "I'm sorry, it's my bad luck that we are never going to become one again." Wiping your tears slowly, you placed the frame back in its usual spot, feeling the weight of your emotions bearing down on you. Days turned into weeks, and you adjusted to the routine of working under Jungkook. He was acting professionally, treating you like a stranger. Even though he didn't scold you, his cold demeanor felt like a wall between you. One afternoon, as you were printing a file near the printer, someone approached you. "Excuse me, Miss Beautiful Lady." You turned to see a man with an amused expression on his face. "Yes, please, how can I help you?" he replied, trying to keep your tone polite. "May I know where the CEO's cabin is?" he asked, his gaze traveling from your face to your outfit, making you feel uneasy. "Take a right and go straight," you instructed, but he didn't seem satisfied. "I don't understand. Can you guide me?" He continued to stare at you, and you quickly adjusted your dress, feeling uncomfortable. Follow me, you said firmly, trying to keep things professional. You started walking ahead, hoping he would get the hint, but he continued to follow you closely, his eyes still on you. As you walked, you turned to him. You can walk in front, I will follow you, you said, trying to regain some control over the situation. I don't know the room, that's why I'm following you, he replied with a grin, and you felt the headache coming on. Frustrated but determined to get rid of him, you led him to Jungkook's cabin. Mr. Jungkook, here is someone to meet you, you announced as the man walked in. Hello, Mr. John, I'm Henry, the man said confidently. We have a meeting today regarding the new AI office project. Oh, Mr. Henry, good morning. Please come in and take a seat. I was waiting for you. Jungkook replied, his voice professional but lacking warmth. You felt a sense of relief as he stepped back, ready to leave. But just as you turned to go, Jungkook called out, Wine, please prepare the conference room along with the team. Yes, sir, you said, nodding as you left the cabin. The door closed behind you and you took a moment to breathe. The interruption had left you feeling unsettled and you wanted to shake off the awkwardness. In the cabin, Henry leaned back in his chair and looked at Jungkook with a smirk. Isn't she? I don't get these kind of secretaries, he said, his tone suggesting something inappropriate. Jungkook clenched his fist under the desk, a flash of anger crossing his face. Shall we remain professional? He said, his voice icy. Of course, Henry replied, paying innocence as he tried to steer the conversation back to business, but the tension in the room was palpable. As they began discussing the project, you busied yourself preparing the conference room. You set up the table, ensuring everything was in place while trying to ignore the nagging thoughts about Jungkook and how different he had become. Minutes later, you returned to cabin to inform them that the conference room was ready. The room is set, Mr. John, you said, trying to maintain your professionalism despite the lingering discomfort from Henry's comments. Thank you, Wine. You may leave now, he said, his eyes focused on the papers in front of him. You nodded and walked out, closing the door gently behind you. Once outside, you let out a shaky breath, your heart racing. What was happening? You missed the Jungkook who used to smile at you, the one who held your hand and made you feel safe. Now he was just a cold CEO, and you were just his secretary, strangers in a world that used to feel like home. In the conference room, the atmosphere was tense. Jungkook stood at the front, presenting confidently while the rest of the team listened intently. You took a seat next to Henry, the only left, and felt his gaze lingering on you like a wave pressing down. It made your skin crawl and you tried to shift your focus to Jungkook, but it was hard to ignore the feeling of Henry's eyes on you. As Jungkook continued his presentation, you could feel Henry leaning closer, whispering something inappropriate under his breath. It made your stomach churn. You shifted in your seat, desperately wanting to escape. Just as you were about to leave, Henry gripped your waist, pulling you back into the seat. Don't disturb the meeting, he said with a smirk, his tone dripping with entitlement. Let go of me. You yanked your hand away, turning your attention to the presentation board, trying to block out Henry's gaze. Jungkook had been observing the interaction from the corner of his eye. He could see your discomfort and for now decided to stay silent, not wanting to disrupt the meeting. The presentation dragged on, but all you could think about was getting away from Henry. Finally, when it was over, you hurried out of the conference room, making your way to the wash basin to wash your hands. His touch still felt like a stain you couldn't scrub away. You splashed water on your face, trying to calm down, but just as you turned around, there he was, Henry. You flinched, taking a step back. What do you want, Mr. Henry? I want you, he said, stepping closer. Don't talk rubbish, you snapped, trying to sidestep him, but he blocked your way and restarted, holding your waist firmly. In a moment of panic, you raised your hand and slapped him hard across the face. The sound echoed in the hallway, drawing the attention of a few female staff members nearby. You slapped me, how dare you? Henry shouted, his face conjuring with anger. Wait and watch now. Tears began to form in your eyes as you worried about the repercussions. Corporate people often prioritize their business over their employees. What if they retaliated? Just then, as he was about to storm off towards Jungkook's cabin, Jungkook appeared, his expression shifting to you. Wine, are you alright? He asked, his voice low and serious. Mr. Jungkook, you know, your secretary slapped me. Henry interjected, trying to put you in a bad light. Just fire her now, or I will break the business with you. You looked at Jungkook, your heart racing. You felt so helpless, your tears blurring your vision, but instead of backing down, Jungkook stood tall, his gaze fierce. I'm sorry, but I don't do business with unethical and minded people like you, he replied firmly, his voice steady. Henry's expression changed to one of disbelief. How dare you call me that? He sneered. Before Henry could escalate things further, Jungkook's hand shot out, slapping Henry's head across the face. Security, get him out of here, he shouted, his voice leaving no room. Within moments, two security guards appeared, escorting Henry out of the building. You watched a mix of fear and relief flooding through you. Once they were gone, you turned back to Jungkook, and before you realized it, you had stepped forward and hugged him tightly. Jungkook didn't hesitate to wrap his arms around you, gently caressing your back. The warmth of his embrace made you feel safe, and for a moment you forgot about everything else. But soon whispers filled the air as the other staff members watched. Jungkook pulled back slightly, his gaze searching yours. Did you think you could just leave me after saying break up? He asked, his voice a mixture of concern and frustration. You looked up at him surprised. Jungkook, you whispered, trying to gather your thoughts. I didn't break up because I don't love you. There is a reason. I know why and everything I know, he interrupted gently. You broke up with me because my mother threatened to kill your mother, right? Tears streamed down your face as you nodded slowly. I'm so sorry, Jungkook. I didn't want to put my mother in danger because she is the one who gave me this life, and I cannot put myself above her life. I didn't know back then you were going through so much, he said softly, his eyes filled with regret. That's why, after learning the truth, I searched for you and came here as CEO. You remembered how his mother had treated your family if you didn't end things with him. It had torn your heart apart, but you had felt there was no other choice. I'm sorry, you whispered, wiping your tears. Jungkook brushed a thumb over your cheek, wiping away your tears. Don't cry, he said, his voice soothing. It was my fault. I should have fought harder for us, but now I'm here. No one can separate us again. I love you, Ryan. Your heart soared at his words, but you hesitated. But you acted like you didn't remember me. I did it as a small punishment for hiding the truth. He admitted, a hint of smile appearing on his face. But I'm so sorry. You smiled slightly through your tears. Okay, but let's go meet the person for whom you broke up with me, he said, as he missed your mother. She left me 3 years ago, Jungkook. You revealed the pain of your loss, returning. He understood immediately, his expression softening as he pulled you into another tight hug. I'm so sorry you have gone through so much, he said, kissing your forehead gently, but I promise I will take good care of you. You will never need to meet my mom again. She won't hurt you anymore. Thank you for watching